Why are you here? Buddhism's surprising truth about your existence. Chapter 1. The root of our question, change itself. At the heart of the question, why are we here, lies something more intimate than philosophy, more personal than theology, impermanence. It's not the mystery of existence that haunts us most, but the insecurity of it. We aren't unsettled simply because we don't know the meaning of life. We're unsettled because everything we try to build meaning from is constantly shifting beneath our feet. We chase after love, build careers, craft identities, attach ourselves to causes and dreams. Not necessarily because they satisfy something deep, but because they anchor us. They give a shape to the shapeless. They make the unknown feel manageable. But the ground keeps moving. The people we love change or leave. The successes we cling to are surpassed or forgotten. The roles we proudly wear, student, parent, artist, leader, they rise and fall like waves. Even our bodies, our thoughts, our preferences are in constant flux. There is no solid platform to stand on, and we are terrified of floating. This is the quiet dread behind many of our daily behaviors, the fear of losing what defines us. Buddhism does not give us the comfort of a fixed answer. It doesn't offer a cosmic contract stating, "You are here for this reason, and this is how you'll be rewarded." Instead, it offers something far more radical, a mirror. And in that mirror, we see a world in motion. Not broken, not cruel, but utterly unfixed. The Buddha pointed to a simple truth. All conditioned things are impermanent. Not as a pessimistic slogan, but as an honest observation. Everything that comes together, whether it's a relationship, a thought, a moment of joy, or even a self-concept, will also fall apart. This isn't a flaw in the system. It is the system. And suffering, he said, arises when we resist this. It arises not because life changes, but because we wish it wouldn't. Because we cling to people as though they will never leave, to health as though it won't fade, to identities as though they are absolute. We suffer when we try to make stable what is inherently unstable. This does not mean life is meaningless, but it does mean that the meanings we create are fragile, temporary scaffolds that hold us up for a while, but cannot bear the weight of eternity. And when those scaffolds crack, anxiety seeps in. We sense this intuitively. We know that behind every celebration lurks the possibility of loss. We know that the praise we receive today could become criticism tomorrow. We know that the image we hold of ourselves could be shattered by a single event, a diagnosis, a betrayal, a job lost. Philosophers in the West have touched this same nerve. Soren Kierkegaard wrote of the sickness unto death, the despair of being a self that cannot anchor itself. Simone Weil described the human heart as perpetually waiting for something it cannot name. And Albert Camus famously framed life as absurd, the unbridgeable gap between our hunger for clarity and the silence of the universe. But where Camus leaned into rebellion, urging us to live passionately in the face of absurdity, the Buddha opened another way. Not revolt, not resignation, but recognition. A path not of defiance, but of deep acceptance. Buddhism invites us to stop asking life to be something it's not. It urges us to stop squeezing meaning out of impermanent things. Not because meaning is useless, but because true meaning cannot come from what is always slipping away. This is not detachment in the cold sense. It's not the refusal to love or to care. On the contrary, it's a more honest form of intimacy, a way of relating to life without chaining it to our demands. When we stop grasping for certainty, something surprising begins to emerge. Not nihilism, not apathy, but presence. A kind of stillness that isn't lifeless. It's alive in a different way. It's not that the world stops moving, but we stop being dragged. We stop needing everything to last, and in doing so, we start to truly experience it. We taste food more deeply. We hear laughter without fear of its end. We hold others, not to keep them, but to know them. This kind of presence doesn't come with fireworks. It's not a spiritual high. It's quiet, almost invisible, like realizing you've been holding your breath for years and finally exhaling. Like discovering that the thing you've been searching for, stability, clarity, peace, wasn't something to hold on to. It was something to let go into. It's the moment you stop searching for your keys in a panic and realize they were in your hand the whole time. And once you've felt that, even briefly, something shifts. You begin to see that impermanence isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. It teaches you to cherish the moment, to forgive, to stop postponing your joy, to speak your truth before the moment passes, to live more fully, precisely because you understand how temporary it all is. Impermanence is what makes life precious. If everything lasted forever, would anything ever feel urgent? Would you ever truly appreciate someone's presence, or the sun on your face, or the sound of your child's voice? It's because these things will pass that they matter so deeply. This is the paradox at the root of Buddhism. What makes us suffer is also what can set us free. Change is painful, yes, but it's also liberating. Because the same force that takes away is the force that allows rebirth, transformation, and growth. The ground is moving, but maybe that's not the problem. Maybe the problem is that we thought we were supposed to stand still. Maybe, just maybe, the path isn't about planting your feet in the sand. It's about learning to dance in the waves. And in that dance, in that surrender to the rhythm of impermanence, a different kind of purpose emerges. Not a purpose that needs to be written in the stars or proven to others, but a purpose that is felt in the bones, in the breath, to be awake, right here, right now. Not to master life, but to meet it. Chapter 2. You were not born by accident. If everything changes, if nothing stays, then another question gently surfaces. Why was I born into all of this? Was it mere chance? A random shuffle of genetics, timing, and biology? Or is there something deeper, a rhythm to the unfolding of your life that the naked eye can't see, but the soul keeps sensing? Buddhism doesn't point to a grand puppeteer in the sky, nor does it surrender to cold randomness. Instead, it offers something more intricate, more interwoven. The principle of dependent origination, that nothing exists in isolation, that everything arises due to causes and conditions. Your life, your thoughts, your sorrows, your talents, none of them arrived out of thin air. They are part of a vast, delicate web of interconnection. You are not an isolated event. You are a continuation, a ripple, a thread in a much older fabric. This principle is not about fate in the way we often think of it. It's not a cosmic destiny already scripted. It's a recognition that everything is connected and that everything conditions everything else. Even your birth was not a beginning in the absolute sense. It was a continuation of energy, action, and intention stretching backward beyond comprehension. Just as a seed becomes a tree, which becomes more seeds, so too does consciousness unfold. Thought leads to habit. Habit leads to identity. Identity gives rise to new choices, and the cycle moves forward. Buddha taught that what we call a person is not a fixed entity, but a process, a stream, like a flame lighting another flame. Not the same, not entirely separate, or like a river flowing, always in motion, never the same water twice. This is also the Buddhist view of rebirth, not of a soul jumping bodies like clothes, but of momentum continuing. When the conditions are ripe, a new moment arises. When they change, the form changes. There is no permanent you steering the ship, only a current shaped by everything you've ever thought, feared, loved, or resisted. To some, that might sound unsettling. No fixed self, no divine plan. But pause for a moment. Think about the implications. It means that you are not imprisoned by identity. You are not sentenced to repeat your past. You are not stuck. You are free to evolve because change is already happening. It means that you are not here by mistake. You are here because all the conditions of life have flowed into this moment, into this breath, into this being you call me. Western science, interestingly, echoes this in its own language. Carl Sagan once said, "We are made of star stuff." And it's not a metaphor. The atoms in your bones were formed in the heart of exploding stars, remnants of ancient galaxies. That's not poetry. That's physics. Buddhism offered this perspective long before astronomy could verify it. The idea that you are not a separate being, but a manifestation of interconnected phenomena, inseparable from the cosmos itself. But here's where Buddhism diverges from science. It doesn't stop at material origin. It asks, what do your choices create? What kind of world are you helping to form with your speech, your thoughts, your actions? This is where karma comes in, one of the most misunderstood concepts in the spiritual world. Karma isn't a cosmic scoreboard. It's not punishment, reward, or divine judgment. It's simply this: intention shapes outcome. Every thought, every word, every deed, especially those born of intention, plants a seed. That seed grows. Not always right away, and not always in the way you expect. But it grows. Imagine walking across a field. Each step presses into the earth. Some paths you walk again and again until they become grooves, trails, highways of the mind. This is how karma works. Not as destiny, but as tendency, as direction. If you plant seeds of anger, suspicion, or greed, those habits grow stronger. If you plant patience, generosity, and mindfulness, those habits deepen, too. And over time, these patterns shape what kind of person you become and what kind of experience you live. So, if we ask again, why are you here? The answer is both humbling and empowering. You are here because conditions created this moment, and you are shaping the next moment by how you meet this one. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Your current circumstances, joys, pains, relationships, dilemmas, are not punishments or blessings handed out at random. They are part of a much larger movement. The ripple of action and intention, both yours and those before you. Even your smallest choices, how you respond to criticism, whether you speak with honesty, whether you pause before reacting, these become the soil from which your future grows. But you're not a victim of karma. Karma is dynamic, alive. You can change the direction of your river, not all at once, but drop by drop. You are not bound by what you were. You are invited into what you are becoming. And this becoming is not fixed. It's unfolding. Each breath is a brushstroke on the canvas of your path. Each act of awareness loosens the grip of old cycles. Each act of compassion plants the seed of a different kind of world. So no, you were not born by accident. But neither were you born under a sentence. You are not a mistake. You are not a divine puppet. You are an arising of conditions, of intention, of causes stretching far into mystery. But mystery doesn't mean confusion. It means there's more to see, more to awaken to, and more responsibility than we imagined. Not in a burdensome way, but in the most beautiful way possible. You are participating in the shaping of life. Right here, right now, by how you choose to see, by how you choose to respond. Chapter 3, The Cage of Clinging. If we are here not by accident, but through a stream of causes and conditions, and if karma is not fate, but the echo of intention, then a more urgent question begins to rise. Why do we keep suffering again and again, even when we know better? We make plans. We learn from our mistakes. We read the books, attend the retreats, hear the wisdom, and yet we still fall into the same patterns. Why? The Buddha offered a simple but profound answer: clinging. We cling to people, to identities, to memories, to dreams, to beliefs, status, emotions, fears, even pain. Clinging is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's hidden behind phrases like, "I just need closure. If only they hadn't. I can't let this go. I don't know who I am without it." We cling not because we're foolish, but because we're afraid. Afraid of what we'll lose. Afraid of who we'll become without the thing, the role, the story, the relationship that gives us shape. In Buddhist teaching, clinging is one of the central links in what's known as Paticca Samuppada, the 12 links of dependent origination. It's the chain that binds us to samsara, the endless cycle of becoming, suffering, and rebirth. It begins with ignorance, not seeing clearly. From that ignorance arise mental formations, habits, biases, conditioned tendencies. Those patterns give rise to consciousness, which takes shape as name and form, the body-mind experience. Then come the 6 sense bases: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thought. Sense contact brings feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Feeling gives rise to craving, the desire to hold on to pleasure, to push away pain. Craving hardens into clinging, a deep attachment. Clinging leads to becoming, a renewed state of existence. From becoming comes birth, and with birth comes aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, and despair. This is not abstract philosophy. It is the architecture of our experience. We can feel this cycle in a single moment. Someone insults us, we feel a flash of hurt, feeling. We crave to restore our dignity, craving. We cling to being seen as right or good, clinging. And then we react, becoming angry, defensive, or cold, becoming. And just like that, the wheel spins again. But here's the transformative insight. If clinging is what binds us, then loosening the grip is what frees us. Not violently, not by force, but gently, consciously. You don't have to let go of everything today. You just need to become aware of what you're clinging to. Try this. Think of something you're holding tightly, a story you keep repeating, a title you can't let go of, a person you're trying to fix or keep. Now imagine, for just a moment, what it would feel like to loosen your grip. Not to lose it, not to push it away, just to stop holding so tightly. What arises? Fear, relief, resistance, emptiness. These are the doorways. They show us where our prison is. And here's the paradox. The cage is not locked. We are holding it shut. Clinging often disguises itself as strength. We think we're being resilient by holding on. But resilience is not the same as attachment. Resilience says, I can move with change. Clinging says, change must not come. One is flow, the other is fear. And it's fear that keeps the wheel turning. We're afraid that if we stop clinging, we'll lose our identity. But what if the opposite is true? What if identity is what we constructed to avoid impermanence? We say, this is who I am. But that's often just a snapshot of who we were at one moment, repeated until we believe it. We say, this relationship defines me. But no relationship is static. It breathes, evolves, fades, or deepens. We say, without this goal, this dream, this label, I'll be nothing. But have you ever actually met that nothing? Sat with it long enough to see if it's as terrifying as your mind insists? Most of the time, when we stop clinging, what rises isn't annihilation. It's space, breath, possibility. It's not always comfortable, but it's honest. And in that honesty, a kind of quiet liberation begins to take shape. The Buddha never asked us to hate the world. He never said that joy, love, or ambition were wrong. He simply pointed to the way we attach to them. The way we demand that they behave a certain way. The way we suffer not because something ends, but because we thought it wouldn't. Freedom, then, is not detachment in the cold sense. It's not withdrawing or closing off. It's releasing the demand that life obey our terms. And when we release that demand, something changes. The joy we experience is deeper because we're not trying to trap it. The pain we feel is cleaner because we're not layering it with resistance. The love we offer is freer because it doesn't need to possess. This doesn't happen overnight. The patterns are old. The wheel has momentum. But each time you notice your grip, each time you soften it, even slightly, you slow the wheel. Each breath of awareness is a break in the cycle. Each moment of letting go is a step off the treadmill of becoming. You don't need to renounce the world to be free. You just need to stop believing that anything in the world can define your worth. And when you begin to see that, not as theory, but as felt truth, something inside you exhales. And for a moment, even if just a brief one, you are free. Chapter 4, The Path of Clear Seeing. If clinging is the cage, then what is the key? What loosens the grip? What slows the wheel? The Buddha's answer wasn't mystical, and it wasn't hidden. It wasn't a secret kept for the worthy or a code for the chosen. It was a path, clear, grounded, and profoundly human. The Eightfold Path, not a dogma, not a checklist, but a way of walking through the world. With clarity, with kindness, with wisdom. The path begins not with belief, but with seeing. This is not about religious doctrine. It's about seeing how things truly are. That life changes. That clinging hurts. That actions have consequences. It's the courage to stop pretending, to stop numbing, to stop blaming the world for its impermanence, and instead understand that suffering arises not from what happens, but from how we respond. Right view is not about knowing all the answers. It's about asking deeper questions. Once we see clearly, we begin to choose differently. What is my motive? Is it rooted in fear or in love? Right intention isn't about suppressing desires, but refining them, shifting from what do I want to what leads to peace. Not because peace is polite or passive, but because peace is what gives life its depth, its steadiness, its center. These are the ethical limbs of the path, not commandments, but invitations. Speak truthfully. Speak with care. Speak less when silence says more. Act with integrity, not because someone is watching, but because your own heart is. And work, not just for money, not just for survival, but in a way that nourishes life, rather than depletes it. In a world that celebrates hustle, right livelihood asks us to consider something deeper. Does what I do reduce harm? Does it add to the weight of suffering in others or in myself. This is not about forcing goodness. It's not about being morally perfect. It's the gentle steering of the mind, the commitment to feed what is wholesome and starve what is not. It's remembering that your attention is like water. Where it flows, life grows. So be mindful of what you water: gratitude or resentment, patience or agitation. The world within you is always blooming something. The art of returning to now, to this breath, to this exact step. Mindfulness is not about detachment. It's about being present without needing to possess. It's walking through a forest and seeing the trees, not as things to categorize, but as living, breathing companions. It's sitting with grief, without rushing it away. It's laughing, without needing to capture it in a photo. Mindfulness is not a trick for productivity. It's a return to reality. And reality, when seen clearly, is enough. The mind, untrained, jumps like a monkey, endlessly restless, craving novelty, clinging to distraction. But a steady mind is a soft mind, a strong mind, not clenched, not rigid, but clear, collected, spacious. Right concentration isn't about withdrawing from life, but about becoming intimate with it. A candle flame doesn't fight the wind by flaring. It stays steady by settling. This is the kind of mind the path cultivates. Quiet, bright, undisturbed, able to see. The Eightfold Path is not a ladder to climb. It's a circle, interconnected, interdependent. Each part supports the others. And the more you walk it, the more you see that you're not just walking toward freedom. You are walking as freedom. This path doesn't promise an easy life. It doesn't guarantee comfort or constant joy. What it offers is something subtler, but far more powerful. The end of unnecessary suffering. The end of the internal war. Because when the mind sees clearly, it doesn't need to clutch, or chase, or control. It learns to move with life, rather than against it. It stops fighting what is, and starts participating in it, with full attention, with deep kindness, with steady grace. Chapter 5, The Final Turning. There is a moment in every true story, not the moment of climax, but the one just before it, where the character realizes no one else is coming. No rescuer, no miracle, no final twist that saves the day. Just this moment, just these hands, just this breath. In the Buddha's life, that moment came not on the battlefield, but beneath a tree. And his realization was not thunderous. It was quiet, but it split the world open. He saw clearly. The suffering was not out there. It was the mind's misunderstanding, the grasping, the pushing, the desperate trying to make impermanent things act permanent. He didn't find salvation. He found liberation, not in escape, but in presence. And when the end of his life came, he didn't leave behind sacred relics or secret knowledge. He left behind a simple instruction: be a lamp unto yourself. Work out your own liberation with diligence. No one can do it for you. Not a teacher, not a parent, not even the Buddha himself. Because awakening is not something given. It's something seen. It's a shift in perception. From how do I fix the world, to what am I still clinging to in this moment? From why does this always happen to me, to what part of me is still afraid to let go? It's a gentle revolution, and it happens in the smallest moments. Not on the mountaintop, but when you pause in the middle of an argument and choose silence instead of ego. Not in the monastery, but when you notice your mind reaching for distraction and you choose to sit with the discomfort instead. Not in cosmic visions, but when you feel the tug of old stories and choose, just for a breath, not to believe them. This is the turning, not the turning of fate, but the turning within. And here's the truth. No one else can walk this path for you, but the path has always been here, waiting right beneath your feet. You don't need to be extraordinary. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be honest and willing to begin again and again and again. Because the path is not a straight line. It's a spiral, a dance, a remembering. Each time you forget, you're given the chance to return. Each breath, a doorway. Each moment of mindfulness, a key. And slowly, without fanfare, something begins to change. Not the world, but how you move through it. Not your circumstances, but your relationship to them. You find that peace was never the absence of chaos. It was your ability to stop fighting it. You find that freedom was never about controlling the river. It was about learning how to float. You find that love was never about holding on. It was about holding open. And you begin to ask different questions. Not, what should I do with my life? But how deeply can I meet this moment? Not, what legacy will I leave? But what presence am I offering now? Because when clinging ends, life becomes incredibly simple. Not easy, but simple. And in that simplicity, there is space. Space to breathe. Space to forgive. Space to see others not as obstacles or extensions of your needs, but as fellow travelers, caught in the same patterns, longing for the same peace. You soften. You let go. Not because you're giving up, but because you finally realize you were never really holding anything. The person you tried to be, the success you chased, the pain you carried, all of it, water in your hands. You open your palms, and the water returns to the stream. And what's left is not emptiness, but space, possibility, presence. So now, as this reflection nears its end, let it not be just another video you watch, another teaching you nod to and forget. Let it be a turning, not toward answers, but toward attention, toward the small choices, to breathe instead of react, to observe instead of grasp, to speak with truth, to listen with compassion, to walk the path not as a seeker of meaning, but as someone learning to be fully here. Right now, not next year, not after enlightenment. Now, this moment, as it is already the gate, and you are already standing at it.